What is going on, y'all? Gamers Goon here today, and happy draft day to all those who celebrate. I had a pre-recorded video for this, but last night we had some big dominoes fall via trade. Started off with Julius Randle being off the books for the Timberwolves. They moved him to the Brooklyn Nets in order to clear up some cap space. The Nets gave up Nick Claxton to the Bulls to free up the cap space to bring in Julius Randle. They did acquire pick 28. I believe they acquired pick 33. The Timberwolves acquired pick 33, so they moved into the first round. And there were some salaries swapping and picks swapping, but ultimately Julius Randle heads on over to the Nets. Nick Claxton goes from the Nets to the Bulls, and I don't really know what the Bulls did because from all I could see, they gave up Muhammad Gay. He was a G League guy for us, to my knowledge. The Bulls still sitting on their picks, so shout out to the Bulls for making a smart move, getting their center, which obviously will impact how they draft. The Nets obviously bringing in Julius Randle could impact how they draft, and then obviously with the Timberwolves could be a big impactful trade as well. But you're looking here at pick 13, and you're like, isn't that the Miami Heat? Yeah, Giannis Antetokounmpo was the biggest domino to fall last night. Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I think we might even have, nope, we don't have the updated rosters. Terrence Shannon is not on this team. Jaden McDaniels is not on this team. But anyways, the Bucks ended up getting, I think it was all Kasperi Shakashonis, Ware, Tyler Hero was a part of it, Jaime Jaquez. So they added a lot of depth, and then they obviously got pick 13 as well. So I think the Bucks are setting themselves up in a pretty good position. Obviously, Kasperi Shakashonis is going to be kind of your point guard. Tyler Hero there, Jaime Jaquez can run one of the wing spots. You have Ware, who's a really good big that we like. So things will get interesting there for the Bucks side of the trade with their picks. It'll be interesting to see which way they end up going. Bringing in Ware makes things real interesting because I wasn't fully sure he'd be a part of a Bucks Heat trade, but ultimately he was. I think 3 first-round picks got exchanged, maybe a pick swap or 2, something like that. But the biggest domino is Giannis Antetokounmpo now being a part of the Heat. So that is something that has thrown my pre-recorded video off, and we were going to mock some trades. Well, I'm not going to mock trades this morning. I just don't think we really have the time to analyze it all. Kings, I expect them to move up on draft day, but other than that, I can't really give you too much because a lot has happened in the last 24 hours. The Wizards, though, I think everything, all the noise around the draft, obviously with picks being swapped and big names being shipped out, I don't think the Wizards are bothered by it. They still go get AJ Devansta. It'll be interesting to see how today progresses. There's been some whispers of Darren Peterson still being in the running for number 1. Is this a situation like a few years back between Paolo Banchero and Jabari Smith? Who knows? But maybe Darren Peterson is ultimately the number 1 pick. But I'm going to still stick with AJ here for this one. Like I said, we're not doing any trades, so keep that in mind for when you comment on this video inevitably. But the Jazz, they're sitting here at pick 2, and this is where things... I'm pretty chalky on AJ Devansta being 1. It could be Peterson, but I'm pretty much leaning heavily towards Devansta. This is my first one that I'm not completely sure on. Pretty much everybody's saying this is going to be Darren Peterson, but the voices in the room are going to be echoing Boozer's name because obviously Carlos is part of that staff. And then you look at Cam Boozer and the prospect he is. I don't think you can go wrong with him, right? He's a 20-10 machine, really smart playmaker. Obviously, we know that he can stretch the floor real well, processes the game at an insanely high level. This is a player that I think his floor is a 20-10, 7-8 year starter. His ceiling is a multi-time all-star, right? You might have AJ Devansta and Darren Peterson and maybe even Caleb Wilson, and they can be the face of the league. I don't know that Cam Boozer can get there, but I think he is somebody that will be a mainstay in all-star games for the future. So Cam Boozer, really, really good option here at number 2. but ultimately I'm still going to lean towards Darren Peterson here. I just think when there's enough smoke, eventually there is a fire, and I think that fire is going to be Darren Peterson ultimately winding up on the Jazz. The Grizzlies, this is pretty chalky here for the first four. I think we're gonna we were talking about some movement in this year's top four because we know the top four is so good. I don't think we're gonna see any movement. I think it's gonna end up being kind of the order we all expected. Obviously, there's been the Peterson at one whispers. There's been the Boozer at two whispers. There's been whispers that the Wizards like Boozer. Do they like him enough at one when they could probably get him at three? Do they trade down so somebody could get AJ DeBansta? There's a lot of questions to be answered at the top of the draft, but I think ultimately you see it be pretty chalky in that top four. I think it will kind of go this way right here. And then we get to the Clippers, and the Kings and Clippers have been linked quite heavily, and that's because the Kings have a strong preference on who they want, it seems, and it seems like that would be Darius Acuff. Ultimately, though, we are not doing trades in this version of the mock draft since it is the last one. Kind of just going to be as chalky as possible to try to get as many hits right. And with that being said, the Clippers here say they cannot make a trade. I think the Clippers ultimately in this draft will wind up with Michael Brown. Offensively, really good player. I think he projects to be a better defender than Darius Acuff as well. I think the Clippers would be really interested in him. They could get him at 7 possibly, but they end up going and get their guy here, which leaves the Nets here with Darius Acuff and Keaton Wagler. And a reason why the Kings have been rumored to trade up is because you have a team like the Nets who nobody really knows what to go for. I think the Nets here would poach Darius Acuff here in this situation. Their guard play, while they do have a lot of guards from last year's class, is not really high level guards. And Darius Acuff is a guy who offensively, I think right away is the face of that team. Yes, you have Julius Randle there and now, but ultimately the face of that team would be Darius Acuff from night one. From actually in about 12 hours, he would start being the face of that team. The Kings sitting here at pick 7. I think they're another team in a really interesting spot, right? This is a team that has some really bad salaries, could see a trade, but once again, we're not doing trades in this, but this is another team to watch out for, moving this pick to get off of some of their salary. But ultimately, the Kings here, there could be some Sabonis rumors coming out later today. We'll see how that progresses as the day goes on. But ultimately, I do think the Kings will stick and pick a guard here. Obviously, we know they want Acuff. They don't get Acuff in this. So we're going to go Keaton Wagler, who is kind of the lengthy. I mean, I'm not going to say he's like the big guard, right? Because he needs to still put some muscle on his frame. But he's a really good shooter. He's a really good playmaker. He's a willing defender. I can't speak highly enough of him, but I also got to see him play quite a bit. So I do have a pretty good scouting report there on Keaton Wagler. Then we get to the Hawks. The Hawks, they're a team that is on a Daimara watch. There's been a lot of kind of buzz around a Daimara here. Ultimately, though, I think you see guards 1 through 3 or 1 through 4, whichever way you rank those guys, all go off the board. When you're the Hawks, this team, I think at 23 you might be in play maybe for Chris Sinak, maybe even Jaden Quainton still. If you miss out on those guys, Henry Vassar at the big man position. I just don't really think Adai Mara here. And while he would be a good pairing on this team, I just don't really think he should be the pick. It should be Kingston Flemings. That gives you a really good two-way guard there in Atlanta. We get to the Mavericks. The Mavericks are another interesting one. They now have Dusty May as their head coach. Now, I do have a Mavericks fan that's telling me, hey, Braden Burries and the Mavericks have a handshake agreement. That is the pick. I'm going to live in fantasy land here for one pick. I'm going to say, hey, Dusty May going to the Mavs means something. In the Mavs go out, and I think we're going to have them get a center here in Adai Mara. I'm kind of maybe even considering Yaxel. You have Cooper Flag there, obviously, to run the 3 and 4, so Yaxel can do some of that as well. You do have some decent big men, Gafford, Bagley, but I think your big men, when you look at them, probably not guys that are irreplaceable. We're going to go at Mara here, somebody that I haven't mocked here to the Mavericks, but with the Dusty May connection, I think that the possibility of them going center has drastically improved here, and a lot of people are having the Mavericks take a center here at the back end of this first round. Well, ultimately, they end up going early and take a Mara with the Dusty May connection there. So I think the Bucks would have been interested in Mara here. Um, Obviously, we know Tyler Hero's now on this team, and I mean, I've talked a lot about I don't know how LeBaron Philon and him could play together. Well, I've also talked a lot about there being an ultimate connecting piece in this draft class, and that is Braden Burries. And you now have a system around Braden Burries, right, that he can kind of mesh with. You have Tyler Hero, you have Quell Ware, you have Jaime Jaquez. You still have, I mean, they traded Bobby Portis in this, but you still have AJ Green, you still have Ousmane Dieng. Um, I think you'll still end up having Miles Turner. Maybe you move off of Miles Turner. Who knows? But you have a system in place, and this Bucks team looks like a team that probably should make the playoffs next year with all that they got from Giannis Antetokounmpo. Obviously, Giannis, great player, superstar player, won you a championship, so you're going to get a lot for him. But I'd argue that the Bucks are in a much better position today than they were yesterday, simply because yes, we all know how great Giannis is, but when you have 4 or 5 guys there, and you've seen the Heat be constant play-in competitors, right? I think the Bucks though would go and get Braden Burries here. We get to the Warriors, and things are a little interesting here. Nate Amint's still on the board. I think his name could be called early, but with the Clippers reports of them being kind of interested in Michael Brown, the Kings with Darius Acuff. Obviously, we're having the Nets poach him there. I still think the Kings go guard. We just really haven't had a spot for Nate Amint yet, and I don't think it's here. I really don't think it's here. I think the Warriors here are going to be trying to capitalize on the window that they're still in. While I don't think they can win a championship with just one player in this draft, and I think they probably could look to start the rebuild and really start to look at life after Curry and Draymond. I think ultimately they won't decide to do that. They're going to still try to win during this time that they still have left with those two guys. We're going to go Yaxel Lindenborg here. That's a name that has been linked to the Warriors, so I'm going to have him be the pick at that one. The Thunder here. I think the Thunder are in a very interesting spot, right? Because this is a team that obviously they went out and they have won a championship, but this is also a team here in the Thunder that came up short, right? You have possibly Chet Holmgren. Is he on trade watch today? Do you want to maybe go after Nate Amint with this pick? Ultimately, though, I think it makes a lot of sense here to think of what we have on this team and what we need going forward, right? We have Isaiah Hartenstein, but we need to get off his contract. Can we get an asset for him? You look at kind of all over the place. I don't think Nate Amint really fits the timeline here of the Thunder trying to compete. We're going to go Merez Johnson early, all the way into the top 12 here in this last mock draft of the cycle. I had a Thunder fan reach out and he said, hey, Merez Johnson, somebody I think the Thunder should look into, plays that physical style, really fits what they do there in OKC offensively and defensively. So I think Merez Johnson here would be a very smart pick for a lot of teams, and ultimately the Thunder end up getting his services. All right, the Bucks, they took Braden Burries. And that obviously knocks out LeBaron Philon from conversation. And I think this conversation really becomes Hans Steinbach. I don't really think Cameron Carr would be in play with Burries being the pick last. Kareem Lopez, I think, is in play. And I think probably Nate Amint would all be in play here. And I'm going to go off of just a gut feeling. I'm going to have Nate Amint slide in this class. He might go all the way in the top 10, but I'm having a gut feeling here with Nate Amint. A lot of people not really super high on Nate Amint. I'm gonna follow my gut, and this is gonna be Hans Steinbach there to join this Bucks rebuild. Obviously, you have Khalil Ware as the spacing big. Nate Amint has some overlap, but I mean, he doesn't necessarily play the exact style of Kel'el Ware, just Kel'el Ware bigger. Native Mint, kind of this really interesting stretch product, but I mean, he finished the season better than the majority of the season, but he's a player that I'm going to have slide just a few picks here. Um, the Hornets. The Hornets, this is a team that a lot of people thought could go center. Um, Native Mint sitting there, JQ sitting there, um, Chris Sinak is sitting there. Ultimately, though, I think if you're the Hornets, you still need center. I don't know that you're getting it. I'm going to be honest, I don't know that you're getting it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get you a power forward here. We're going to have Native Mint be the pick. He's still going to go Lotto, but ultimately lines up as the power forward there in Charlotte. The Bulls. Now the Bulls are in a really interesting spot, right? We thought maybe you need center. And as much as I love Cam Carr, LeBaron Philon being there, right, just makes a lot of sense, right? You brought in Claxton, who's a good defender. You have Caleb Wilson, who's a good defender, right? And a lot of why we wanted Cam Carr was really good defensively, and we needed some defensive calling cards. Well, we added a few, and while I would not be upset at Cam Carr, if LeBaron Philon's on the board, the offensive player he can become in the league is absolutely ridiculous. LeBaron Philon being the selection there, not somebody that I've looked too much into for the Bulls. Obviously, I've seen LeBaron Philon play. He spent 2 years at Alabama, really good scoring option, really good shooter. But somebody that I really haven't put much thought into to the Bulls because we were looking at kind of finding an identity for this team. Defensively, well, you have Claxton. You now have Caleb Wilson. So why not go the offensive kind of upside here in LeBaron Philon? And this is somebody that if you told me a week ago, I'd been like, yeah, I'm not really too excited about it because it just doesn't really fit what we have, and I don't really see the cohesion of it, right? But now that you have Claxton, now that you have Wilson, right, you're not answering as many defensive questions. Yes, you still have Gideon Bazelis that are big defensive question marks, but LeBaron Philon, I think, is good enough offensively that I'm not really too concerned at that point. If since you have two really elite interior defenders now. And we get to the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies last time around selected Cam Boozer. They obviously have Edey there. Ja Morant. It was reported the Timberwolves were not interested in Ja Morant. So they're trying to still get off of Ja Morant. Maybe one of these picks moves Ja Morant. But ultimately, I think you see them go guard. Somebody that can play next to Cam. They have Cedric Coward on this team, right? So I think you're probably looking at like a true point guard situation to replace Ja. Christian Anderson, somebody I absolutely like. I love Abuka Okori as a potential option for the Bulls if they trade back into the first round. Obviously, there's no need for that right now with LeBaron Philon. But ultimately, I think Bennett Sturts is a guy that will be pretty safely in that 16 to 20 range. I don't see him moving outside of it. The older prospect kind of trajectory kind of sometimes pushes guys later than what they should be, but I think Bennett Sturts is pretty safe from pick 15 to 20. I just think you would be getting a heck of a player, a really good point guard, a really good scoring guard, somebody that I think would help kind of revamp and turn this Grizzlies team back around. Now he is older, and that is kind of one of the flaws that come with him as a prospect. But ultimately, I think Bennett Sturts would be a very solid pickup for a team looking for a point guard replacement. Then we have the Thunder. They're back on the clock. They went Morez Johnson, and I know I've predicted this in the past that Cam Carr found his way to the Thunder, and the Thunder fans weren't super happy because it's another wing that's kind of 3-and-D, does the same things, but he's just too good of a prospect here. Fits in defensively, gives you versatility long term. They traded Aaron Wiggins. They could move on from Lou Dort, who knows? But this adds another wing that can be in the rotation, and you know exactly what he gives you. Cam Carr and Morez Johnson would be an ideal draft class, in my opinion, for the Thunder. We get to the Hornets. The Hornets now at pick 18. I think They could double down on big if you don't really trust Nate Ament to be a center. They could go JQ. They could go Chris Sinak. But ultimately here, I'm going to actually go with a guard. I believe. No, do I want to go a guard? Let's see what this team has in terms of guards. Um, Obviously, we have LaMelo, Miles Bridges, Kobe White, who isn't guaranteed to be back. We do like Sion James. You have Trey Mann. So maybe a shooting guard, small forward. Dalen Swain's super interesting, but he kind of carries that older prospect vibe. Do we take a shot on Kareem Lopez even? I really like Isaiah Evans starting around this range. Koa Pete, somebody that I think a team will take a swing on. The Hornets. I think the Hornets, they took their gamble, right? They took Nate Ament, who we're not all sure on as a prospect. Here, you see the Hornets kind of go the safer option. We know what he'll be. It might be considered a reach because of where he's getting mocked into the 20s, but I think a really good player here in Isaiah Evans to run the 2 and 3 there in Charlotte and be a really good 3-point calling card, right? You had Kobe White, who you might have to move off from. Isaiah Evans, really good 3-point shooter as well, and absolutely love what he brings to a team on both sides of the ball. The Raptors is another team that has been linked to Bennett Sturts. Bennett Sturts off the board. Their point guard play was not good last year. You would expect them to go point guard. And the point guard options are running out. And I think you probably do see Ibuka Okori go, at least in my mind. I think I've heard more about Ibuka Okori in this class than Christian Anderson, which to me leads me to believe Ibuka Okori will be the one off the board first. We're going to go Ibuka Okori here with that selection. Then we get to the Spurs. Obviously, they went to the championship. Their backup big man to Bimby, not super great. I think you see this pick ultimately come down to JQ and Chris Sinak. I think you really will see them kind of try to give Wemby some time to not have to be on the court as much as he was. Chris Sinak stretches the floor really well in Houston. They've had a closer look at him, obviously not being too far away. Same state, Chris Sinak there will be the stretch big there. So we see JQ slide, and obviously the reason why he's probably going to have a little bit of a slide, even though he is a potential lottery talent, is because of the injury that set him back a little bit. The Pistons sitting here, they are a team that also, when you look at them, they're on a pretty good track, right? I could maybe argue for some wing help that can stretch the floor a little bit, but other than that, I think they're on the right track, right? This is a really good team during the season. Obviously, we know their playoff letdown, but this is going to be where I have Allen Graves. We want to add shooting to this team off the wing, and we're going to find it here with Allen Graves being the selection. 76ers, this is a spot that I've heavily considered Chris Sinak. Well, he's not there. JQ, as much as I want to get a backup for Embiid, I don't think he'd be the right fit because we do need to kind of add some more scoring that's not named Maxey or Embiid or VJ Edgecombe. So here, obviously, I'm going to look probably at that 3 or 4 position, and we're kind of at a point here that I'm willing to take a swing. This is a solid team, but it's a team that hasn't got over the hump. We're going to go Koa Pete. Not the greatest shooter, but somebody with a lot of upside if that shot ever comes around. Then we have the Hawks. The Hawks, they have had a gift fall into their lap, right? We thought maybe Mara was in play, but they said, you know what, we're not doing Mara. We're going to go draft our guard here. It's just too good a value to pass up on. Well, JQ is sitting there, and you have Vassar sitting there. And this is going to be the real question in this draft is how far does JQ fall? JQ, obviously, we know how great of a defensive prospect he is. Still a really young player. You saw him play really well at ASU. If he continued on that trajectory, probably would have been like a top 10 at worst lotto pick in this year's class, which is a really deep, good class. And then you have Henry Vassar, kind of the modern-day NBA center, and we'll need to add some weight to him. You know what? It's draft day. I've seen crazier things happen. We're going Henry Vassar here over JQ Jaden Quaintance. And the Knicks now on the clock, and the Knicks are sitting here. Just won a championship. Shout out to them. Ultimately, though, I think you see them continue to find winning pieces. Dalen Swain can be one of those. You look at some because really you're looking for bench depth here. These aren't guys that are going to come in and be kind of your calling cards. Sometimes you have too much scoring on the shoulders of Cat and Brunson. Maybe we could go scoring and go early with Malik Thomas. We could maybe go for Dalen Swain, who I like here, but ultimately I think I'm going to go the swing here on Kareem Lopez. Big kind of ball handling forward that I think can be an interesting option. But we'll end up seeing where he eventually goes. I wouldn't be shocked to see him all the way in the lottery. There's a lot of guys here in this range, by the way, that I won't be shocked to see in the lottery. Everybody I picked in the lottery, obviously. Phylon would be in there. I don't think Bennett Sturts would get lottery. I could see him being 15. I don't know if I'd see him in lottery. Cam Carr, I could see lottery. Not Isaiah Evans. I think he'll probably be a little bit further down, like where I have him. I could see Ibuka Corey sneaking in somehow. Chris Sinak, I could see. Koa Pete, if a team really wants to take a swing. I could see Kareem Lopez. And I would even throw JQ, Dalen Swain in there as well as potential lottery guys. So we do have about 20 prospects that could go in that top 14. So there's a really good class. The Lakers, though, we know they need big man help. Henry Vassar probably would have been the option, but ultimately they don't get that option. They're going to take best center available, and that's JQ Jaden Quaintance, really good defensive prospect there out of Kentucky. Then we get to the Nuggets. The Nuggets here, this is another team that I expected to hear a little bit more from during the kind of the off season. So far, obviously, when we were talking about these teams making trades, I was expecting maybe the Nuggets would try to start to clear up some cap space, and we haven't really got too much from the Nuggets just yet. This is a team right now that is Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. Not a great team around him. I think here he probably just go best player available, figure out the fit later. There is some overlap with Jamal Murray, but ultimately, to me, I think Christian Anderson would be best player available for what he gives you from beyond the three-point line as one of the best shooters in this year's draft. The Celtics, they're going to be forced to take one of these centers. Their center play was atrocious in the playoffs. They have to go center here, and I don't really think there's an option for them. Taurus Reed will be the selection here. The Nets now on the clock, and I think the Nets are in a really sneaky good position now, right? They got Acuff. You could maybe see them take a gamble on a center here. They just traded Nick Claxton, but they have Randall. I'm going to look for guys that can contribute on both sides. This isn't a team that really has very many solid answers at the moment, right? You have Julius Randle. You have Michael Porter, who's there, I guess. And other than that, you're not really too sold on anybody. I mean, maybe Yegor Dimon. But I'm looking at the wings, centers. That would be kind of where I would put my focus. And with Taurus Reed just going off the board and me not really wanting to go all the way down to Trevon Brazile, who I think would be the next center off of the board, or at least a center, maybe can play center. I don't see Baba Miller as a potential center. I do see Trevon Brazile. Baba Miller is taller. Obviously, I've talked quite a bit on why that is the case, just with how both of them play. I see Baba Miller having a little bit more of a struggle to play the center position, but the Nets here just take best player available as well. They get that luxury through that trade, and they get Dalen Swain, who does see a draft day slide. And I think really his draft day slide has nothing to do with Dalen Swain as a prospect. It just has something to do with this class being so darn good, right? I have a guy going at 25 that I think can go in the top 14. I have a guy at 24 that I think can go in the top 14. Christian Anderson, I've mocked all the way up to 16. Taurus Reed, somebody that might even be able to be a top 20 player with the lack of centers. So, I mean, it's a really good class. It's a really good class. And I know a lot of people say that, and then some people are like, well, it's not really that good. It's a really good class. We get to the Cavs. They're one of the more confusing ones. They're tougher to predict, at least in my opinion. You have James Harden, Donovan Mitchell. There's been some buzz around both of those guys. Obviously, James Harden for the wrong reasons. Donovan Mitchell, is he going to be there? Who knows? I'm going to go Malik Thomas with the guard questions. The Mavericks, they selected last time around Adai Mara. They were probably one of the first big shocks of this draft. Going left when we kind of knew in this range these guards would go, but we didn't really ever pair Mara with the Mavs. But they went him, and now they're going to go with a guard prospect here at pick 30. And they're going to actually go Sergio De La Rey, the jumbo guard there out of Spain, to play alongside Cooper Flagg and alongside Adai Mara and be kind of a plate setter there for those two guys. We get to the Knicks now. They took Kareem Lopez, a little bit more of a risky pick. Here, I'm just going to go ahead and take the more safe option, right? We have, Zuby's sitting there. I'm trying to convince myself not to do Richie Saunders to be one of the bench guards. And I've talked a lot about Landry Shamet on this team and finding his long-term replacement. I'm going to go Richie Saunders. I really like Josh Jefferson's fit here. I really like Zuby's fit here, but we went Kareem Lopez, who's around the same size as them. So I do want to kind of give you a mixed bag there with the Knicks. So we're going to go Richie Saunders. The Grizzlies went Bennett Sturts, and they went Cam Boozer. Now I think you could see them start to add wings with roles. Cam Boozer, obviously, we know he's going to play that power forward position. You got Zach Edey. As cool as Trevon Brazile is, don't really think he fits what they're trying to do with that group. Josh Jefferson sitting there, which is intriguing. I'm going to go Josh Jefferson. Now, him and Boozer might have some overlap, but Boozer being able to space the floor, I think, and maybe even play some center, will give you some flexibility to go BPA here and go Josh Jefferson, who I think would be a really solid pickup, and I think he is a guy that will be a rotational player in the NBA. The Timberwolves, now, we had them usually picking here at 28. Well, they didn't get a pick at 28, and that's because they freed up some room for the big, not the big man. They freed up some room with the big man for the big contract of Ayo Dosunmu. I think it's 5 years, $112 million or something like that. So obviously, they moved off Julius Randle. That's one of their big man rotation pieces. That's fine. We got Zuby Ejiofor here for them now. And I think you do see them prioritize going after a guy like Zuby rather than Baba Miller, simply because of the lesser risk that comes with it, right? Baba Miller and him both played in college for quite some time. But Zuby, I think you kind of know what he's going to be in the NBA. You know, when you're a team that's trying to compete for a championship, you know Zuby can give you some good minutes. Baba Miller, it's a little bit of a mixed bag with him, but he does have all the skill set to be a really good NBA player. The Kings now sitting here at pick 34. The last time around, they did not get their guy in Darius Acuff. They had to go Keaton Wagler. Obviously, we still expect Keaton to play guard in the league, so I don't think guard would be on the table here. Domantas Sabonis might not be on the team at this point. I'm going to go Trevon Brazile, who I've quickly started to fly up my board as a stretch big and kind of that next center off of the board after Tariq Reed. I don't see Zuby really as a center. He does have some center tendencies, but Trevon Brazile being the guy here at pick 34. And obviously you have Maxi Reno there, but this is a guy that could space the floor a little bit better, play good defense, and I think be a really solid player. Then we get to the Spurs. Spurs need to trade some of these picks, man. I don't want to see the Spurs have a deep day two because they have like 3 picks on day 2. They went Chris Sanac, right? Chris Sanac, we think he could be a good stretch big in the NBA. Ultimately, here with this pick, I think you're going to probably see the Spurs just find guys that we know can continue to adapt and find roles in the league. And that's going to be Alex Caravan with this pick. Run around, hit threes, play off of the guards that we have here. Obviously, we have Victor Wembanyama as well, so a lot of attention gets drawn to him. Knock down your shots, bring the winning culture that you had at UConn to San Antonio. The Clippers, they went with Michael Brown, who they went ahead. I mean, there's some possibility for 7-for-5 swap, and I think Michael Brown would still be the Clippers pick, but they're taking Michael Brown in my mock. At 36... We went Michael Brown, right? I still think center's in play. They traded Zubac. I think center is in play. And are the Clippers a team that would try to go with Baba Miller and play him at center? Who knows? Ugana Onyenso, to me, would be the next center off the board. But I'm going to say the Clippers, they're going to go for the gamble here with Baba Miller. Can he play center? Can he not? I don't think he can. I see him more as a small forward / power forward, but maybe they get into an NBA weight room and becomes a center. Pick 37 here for the Thunder. And the Thunder last time around, they selected Cam Carr and Morez Johnson. That's right. That is right. So I think you have two really safe prospects there. I think really you could see the Thunder really just look to stash guys away and maybe wait a few years and see what they become. And that's where you're going to see where you get a guy like Jack Cale getting drafted. Bigger guard, gets downhill pretty well. I probably have spent some time in the G League, if not in Germany. I know colleges. I think he was committed to Gonzaga. I don't know if he still can play overseas, but he's not a guy that I would expect to have a role year one by any means. Then you get to the Bulls. The Bulls have had a interesting day, right? They got LeBaron Philon. They got Caleb Wilson. They have Nick Claxton, which I would kind of consider as an extended portion of this draft class. Now you get into a situation here where you've got a guard that can score. Ryan Conwell is not necessarily needed. We got our big in Claxton. We got Caleb Wilson, right? So now I'm starting to look at guys further down the bench and roles and guys we need to replace. And I'm looking at a guy down the bench that I would like to replace, Patrick Williams, right? We like Stick Smith as a backup, right? But I'd be looking more so at like Patrick Williams as a guy you'd want to replace. And you might even argue like an Isaac Okoro as another guy. You have Trey Jones as of this moment. You still have Rob. Obviously, you have Philon, so you do have a lot of guards now. The wings, not super great at this point. But ultimately here, I think I'm going to go take my gamble here on a guy I really like. Bigger player, can play maybe the 3, probably a 2, but I think he might have some ability to play the 3. Good shooter. Otega Owe here as another guy to add into this rebuild process for the Bulls. The Rockets, I think they're a team that would be looking heavily into the point guard position, right? They've had these undersized point guards. Is Braden Smith one of their guys here? I am not sure, but I do think they go point guard. I'm going to go Braden Smith with that one. The Celtics, I think you would see, obviously they tried to shop Jalen Green, didn't work, or Jaylen Brown did not work. So here they're probably going to be looking kind of at that 2 or 3 position for another guy that can replace him going forward. And this might be really early. Part of me wants to go Jaron Pierre. You know what? Yeah, I think these second rounders, you don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to go Jaron Pierre here with that pick as a guy that can kind of play the 2 and 3, be a fast player that can shoot the ball pretty well. Jaron Pierre there, the pick at 40. A lot earlier than probably some people have it mocked, but having fun. This Heat team needs a guard. They need a guard. Their guard play does not look good. Norm Powell's running the shooting guard. Obviously, you have Bam, you have Giannis, you have those good pieces, but, geez, man, they can't shoot the three-pointer. They can't. They still need good playmakers. Here, I think you just go get. I'm gonna go get a guy that can shoot the 3-ball pretty well, and Emmanuel Sharp. I think you need to find shooting, and I think you need to find spacing on that team. Good luck, Miami. Then we get to the Spurs. The Spurs, like I said earlier, they found a guy with a role here in Caravan. They obviously took Chris Sanak. So here you might see them kind of go the route of just BPA, who they like, might not have a role right away. I'm going to go Ryan Conwell, good scoring guard off the bench there in San Antonio. the Nets back on the clock. This is a team that went Dalen Swain earlier. They went Darius Acuff. Still think center could be in play. We're going to go Ugana Onyensa. We traded away Nick Claxton. We're getting a good defensive center here in Ugana Onyensa. 44, we have, yet again, the Spurs. And this is why I just hate this second round of picking, because the Spurs, what do they need? The Spurs here, though, we are going to go. We have a guard. We have a center. We have a forward. I think I just add a wing here. And I think I'm going to kind of gamble here with upside wings. Dylan Mitchell's interesting as a gamble. Toby Law is a guy that I like as a gamble. Isaiah Nelson's a fun little gamble as well. I'm gonna go Toby Law. With that one. Not a guy that's gonna be playing right away. I'm a guy that you're gonna sit. Similar thing with Conwell. I think Conwell can step in and be a contributor, but Law is more so on the side of we're gonna have to kind of get him ready to be a contributor. We get to the Kings. The Kings, like I said, they wanted Acuff. They didn't get him. They got Wagler. They got Brazil. So they've gotten some shooting onto this team. I would like to maybe add with this pick some really good defense. And I see Malik Brown sitting there. And it's really tempting. Felix Okpara there as well. Like I said, I think both Wagler and Brazil can be solid NBA defenders. But that's not going to be their calling guards necessarily. I'm going to go get a really good I mean, you have Reynaud there, so you don't really need Okpara. You might move on from Sabonis, though. So I'm going to go Malik Brown here to play defense there. He might not ever be a 10-point per game scorer, but geez, is he going to be hard to score against. We get to the Magic here at pick 46. They're a team that not a lot of talk around because, I mean, they don't have any picks, really. They went Jace Richardson last year. I think you probably see them go wing here. With that being said, I'm going to go with an upside swing here with Dylan Mitchell. Really good athlete, really good player that we thought could have maybe at one point been a first-round pick. Well, it didn't turn out that way. Suns, this is a team that I've been saying pretty adamantly they need guard help. Ultimately, they're. I mean, you have a lot of guards on this team, you really do, but not a lot of good playmakers other than maybe Colin Gillespie. Devin Booker's a solid playmaker, I guess. This is just, I mean, come on, Malawach, Mark Williams there, Rasheer Fleming, who you like. I could see an argument to be a forward here, but I still think you need a good playmaker here, and I keep doing this, but I'm gonna go Milos Uzan here. I really like Milos Uzan as a playmaker in this draft. Then we get to the Mavericks. The Mavericks, they have selected Sergio De La Rey. They have selected Adai Mara. Continue to find pieces to fit around Cooper Flagg, Adai Mara, and Sergio De La Rey. We would kind of look here. I'd be looking maybe at that 2-guard spot. Jaden Bradley still sitting there. I think he could be a good NBA contributor. We're going to go Jaden Bradley here to the Mavericks. 49, this is the Nuggets, another team that I don't particularly love drafting for. Christian Anderson was their pick last time, just going best player available. I think there is some potential there to get a wing at this spot because you did have, well, I mean, it wasn't a great season, but you're going to lose Christian Brown and or Peyton Watson. You're probably only keeping one of them. We're going to find our new kind of guy in that rotation, and it's going to be Tyler Nickel, a guy that I really like there that could shoot the ball pretty well and plays pretty physically there for what you would think out of Vanderbilt. Pick 50, this is the Raptors. This is a team that I have been saying could have went center maybe at 19. Just not a team that I look at and I think, wow, you're great center depth. Jakob Poeltl, a guy that always seems to be in trade talks. You took CMB last year. This pick is going to end up being Felix Okpara, who I feel like I continue to mock to them, but I think it's just a really good fit for him and a really good fit for the Raptors. The Wizards, they went AJ DeBansta. Obviously, I think you look at kind of your guard and, I mean, not your guard, but you look at Trae Young and Anthony Davis, their inability to stay on the court at sometimes. I think with these next two picks, you find guys that can kind of lessen the blow when those guys are out. With kind of where we're sitting, though, I think here we're going to go Jacoby Gillespie to be the Trae Young backup. And the Clippers now back on the clock. You do got to remember the Wizards do get another dart throw at the Anthony Davis backup. This is the Clippers. They have selected Baba Miller to play potentially center. We're not sold on him as a center, so we still might go center here, because jeez man, this team's just not great. Their wings. I think here I'm still going to go center again. I'm going to double down on the big man position because we're not even fully sure that the guy we drafted is going to ever be a center. We're going to go Rafael Castro, a guy that I do ultimately think will hear his name called. Moves around pretty well for a big man. It's a guy I looked into quite a bit at 56 for the Bulls. I've even had a video where I projected him to go to the Bulls. But a guy that moves around pretty well, good defender, continue to get better over the course of his college career. The Rockets, they have selected Braden Smith. I think here you probably just see them. I mean, this team should be good. You move on for Fred. Backup big man could be a concern. All right, we're just going to go here and get a backup big man here. And we're going to go Tyler Bilodeau, who I also think will hear his name called. Almost guaranteed we'll hear his name called. 54 here. This is the Warriors. The Warriors last time around took Yaxel. I think here you see them kind of go the route of Steph Curry's old. We got to figure out what we need to do after him. We're going to go Bruce Thornton here for that one. The Knicks now on the clock. They have had Richie Saunders to kind of be a three-point scorer. Kareem Lopez, more of a gamble, jumbo guard, point forward type situation. Here, I think I just want to add some physicality defensively, and I don't really know that we're getting much here. You know what? We're going to go Malik Renew. We're going to go Malik Renew here with this selection. The Bulls now on the clock. They have selected Otega Owe. Obviously, we went LeBaron Philon. We went Caleb Wilson. Yes, they got Nick Claxton. Yes, they have Stick Smith. Ultimately, though, I think you could still see the Bulls be interested in one of these big men. You have Claxton, who kind of plays that bully ball style, so I think TKR kind of makes him not as interesting. I keep coming around to Nate Biddle, man. Do I really? Is this only happening because I'm a Illinois/Oregon fan that I keep coming around to Nate Biddle being the stretch big off the bench? I don't know. We're going Nate Biddle though. We're going Nate Biddle. 57. This is the Hawks. They have had two selections. They went Vassar and they went with Flemings. Okay, so here I probably want to add Vassar and Flemings. Flemings I don't think is necessarily a guaranteed score in the league. I'm going to go with score in the league, and that is going to be Keyshawn Hall getting drafted here. Pick 58, this is the Pelicans' first of the draft. I think, obviously, you have a lot of concern long-term about Zion Williamson, whether or not he'll be on this team. Do you answer those questions today? I don't know. Really good guard prospect that I don't think should go undrafted in Quadir Copeland. I'm just going to take him because I need him to be drafted. That's my guy right there. We get to the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves now on the clock. They... obviously, earlier, after the big trade, they selected Zuby to fill that Julius Randle role. I thought maybe they could be looking for scoring here. I'm going to go get Nick Martinelli, one of the better scorers in college basketball last year. I'm not going to have him fall out of the draft. And then we get to the Wizards yet again. They went their guard back up here, and here... this would be a nightmare scenario considering this is an AD backup. That Bilodeau just went. Ultimately, though, we are still going to go the backup route of AD, but it's going to be with TKR, Trey Kaufman-Renn. So let me know down below who your sleepers in this year's class are. Obviously, we talked a lot about the first round, but I want to know who you are pounding the table for during this draft. Thank you for watching, and we will see you after the draft.